This is Riley. Sit. Remember, every time you give a treat, always say the command word after the treat goes in the dog's mouth. In this video, I'm going to show you how I can help a dog get over a fear of going through the dog door. The Guardian has already removed the dog door, so you see there's no dog door flaps. Now, what I'm going to do, first of all, is have you ever used a clicker with Riley? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what's called priming the clicker. The clicker is to indicate the exact second the dog did something you want it to do. Should have had this ready to go, but I moved pretty quickly. So in order to create the association that this is a good thing, we need to build the association. We do that by doing what we call priming the clicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a treat on the ground. The instant the dog licks it up, I'm going to click. This is to indicate that's what I want her to do.
Cabo.
We're not going to say that for now, but I like where you're thinking. So I want to, every time he licks up a click or licks up a treat, he hears a click. So I usually do this about 10 treats, about 2 or 3 times. Sometimes you can do this. So every time the treat goes in the dog's mouth, they get a click. So this is to indicate that's the precise moment you did something I want. So now what I want the dog to do is I want the dog to go through this door. Now a lot of dog trainers would just put a leash on the dog, pull it through there and pull the dog through a couple times until it realizes there's nothing to be fearful of. I'm a dog psychologist. I used positive reinforcement only. I don't believe in I don't use force unless I absolutely have to in emergency situations. So what I do is I want the dog to approach the dog door and feel empowered to do it on her own, on his own volition, and be able to move away if he feels like it. So I'm going to take a treat. I'm just going to put it near the dog door. And then he gets to walk away. So now that was pretty good. Nobody forced me to do something I didn't like. So if your dog won't even go to the dog door, just put one here and breadcrumb them until they're walking all the way to the dog door. Next step is I'm putting just right inside the lip of the dog door and clicking every time that he gets the treat. And that's not priming, that's just basically I want him to, the click means you're approaching it. Now before, he wouldn't come even anywhere near the dog door, correct?
Right.
So what we're doing, show him I don't have a treat. He knows where the treat is. And you see now he's lingering a little bit. Instead of taking it, running away right away, which most dogs, when they're really fearful, will take it and then run away, or they'll lean really far towards it and then run away. Now what I'm not doing is telling him to go there. He saw me put the treat there. He knows there's a treat there. Every time he gets it, something good happens and he gets to move away, which is what he wants. Try not to look at him directly if he looks up at you like that. He's just trying to ask, is that permission? But see, now he's lingering. Now this is not going to be like the dog whisperer where you see me get the dog to do the whole thing, because that's not realistic for when it comes to dogs overcoming fears. All I want him to do is practice approaching, sticking his head partially through there, and getting a treat. This is a version of what we call a conditioned emotional response, or CER. Now, you're seeing he gets more and more comfortable with this each time this happens because, again, we're proving that this is a good thing to have happen. Now, the next stage, which we're not going to show because it's nighttime and there are only 2 of us and one of us has to hold the camera, is basically I would have somebody right outside and have somebody else, one of your kids or somebody that can help, right in here doing the same thing. And once he gets the treat that's already on the ledge, we're going to have somebody right outside sticking their hand through the door, giving him the treat, so he doesn't have to stick his hand out any further than he already was. So you take that, you click, and then somebody else would hold one and give it to him. And then each time, if this is the window, first we're holding our hand through the window, then we go here, 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 and eventually he goes further and further. Do you need to answer that? Can you roll with it for a second?
I'll roll with it.
Okay, so eventually he's going to stick his head all the way through, but not come all the way out. And then eventually he might stick a paw. Now, if he sticks his head through all the way, make sure you give him a click for that. If he raises his paw, even if he didn't have to put it on through, but if he just raises his paw up a little bit, click and give him a treat for that. Because that's one of the steps that leads to him going through there. We want to reward him for each individual step, help him gain confidence and motivation to want to do that. Hey, Riley. Now, the other thing you can do, you could go like this and throw a couple out there. I don't think that's going to be enough for him to go through, but now he's thinking about it. He sees me doing it. Now, something else I was going to do off camera was, and he finally did take it, let him have a bully stick and chew on it a little bit. then go out there and stick your hand through with the bully stick and let him chew on it with your whole hand through here, and then pull it a little bit closer, a little bit closer. Let him chew on it a little bit after an inch, and then pull it another inch forward. And so he's sticking his head further and further out this dog door, and eventually he's going to put a paw through there, and then the person's out there, instead of sticking their hand through the dog door, they're on the other side. He has to stick his head all the way through there to lick up the treat, and then the hand gets further and further away. But nobody's forcing him to do it, and eventually he'll just move himself further and further through, and then he'll walk through all the way, and he won't even think about it because, again, we've created a positive association. If every time you go to a restaurant, you find a $100 bill in the menu at table 1, even if the food wasn't very good, you're going to go back and sit at table 1, and because it's a positive reinforcer. It's the same sort of thing here. And see how he's lingering and looking out there? Now I'm going to put it here in a way where he's probably going to roll it over. Let's see. No, I think he'll be able to get that one. Now if he does nudge it through, or sometimes we have what we call a jackpot, a pile of the treats there. Now the other thing you do is if he ever just comes over here and it's open on his own volition, make sure you click if you have a clicker, or go give him a treat, or just go give him some affection. And you can also assign a command word and call it like vacation. Vacation. So vacation means to go through the dog door. Now there are a couple other variants of things that you can do for this. Again, I don't like to be force-based, but he really responds to the doorbell. So one of the things that I've done with some dogs is I actually get a baby gate that we attach right outside. It's a puppy playpen. Get about 40 inches tall. They're about $35. Anchor it somehow so they're in there right outside, but they can't get access to the rest of the place. And then have the other dog is Lola, who doesn't have this problem. She uses the dog door. Well, then have somebody ring the doorbell. They're going to hear the doorbell. That's going to cause them to be excited, and they forget about their fears. And a lot of times that will get the dog to run through, especially because Lola runs through, and I hear the doorbell, and I run through as well. But we're hitting it with multiple angles. First, we're helping the dog feel good about going and getting the treat. You should do it from this direction, as well as having the dog outside and putting the treats on this edge with the dog outside, so it's sticking ahead in both directions. Now look at that. Vacation, or whatever the word is. But that was unprompted, just because every time I go over there, something good happens to me. I'm liking it. But we're not forcing, we're not getting frustrated, and we're letting the dog go at the dog's pace. Most of us, we get very frustrated when the dog doesn't do everything we want immediately when we want. Just like anything else, anything that's worthwhile takes a little bit of time and practice. So I'd recommend you get a clicker like this. They shouldn't be more than $5. And, these are the ones I like to get on Amazon. And get a little tether like this. You can have it around your wrist, so when the dog's doing the wrong thing. And you can actually pan over to that. This dog bed we just pulled out. The dogs don't use the dog beds, correct? A tiny little bit. Basically, we were tossing treats on the dog bed, basically doing the same version of what we did over here. And now we have residual carryover. The dog's like, this is a good place to hang out. Every time I hang out here, there's treats here.
So do we give him a treat right now for being there?
No, we just enjoy it. That's the residual. Now we could, after he goes there, throw a treat afterwards and say,
Cava.
There you go. And so create, but you don't have to do it every time. You just come back to me with the camera. So when you're giving a dog a treat, really the most effective way to give the treat is chaotically, when they never know, am I going to get that treat or not? Now, at first we give them a treat every single time to cement it in. Then after the dog seems to really know what we're doing, then we go to maybe every other time, then every third time, every fourth time. And eventually get to the point where sometimes I get affection, sometimes I get a treat. And they really like the affection anyways. Riley, come. Riley. Now, one thing you don't want to do with this is go. It's going to work right now, but you don't ever want to do this because you want the dog to understand that means I did the precise actual moment. I would normally bring Riley back here to demonstrate, but Riley is not going to come, and Lola's in the closet, and she doesn't like being in the closet, so we'll wrap this one up. So these are some tips and tricks that you can use if you have a dog that's fearful of going through the dog door.